Hello everyone, Jayma here, and I have a double page scrapbook layout for you. Today I'm going to be using this sketch. This was actually last month's sketch in my customer group, and I haven't used it yet, so I thought I would use this. It's got all the measurements below, and this is something I provide in my customer VIP group. And I'm going to be scrapbooking these photos. Isn't this hilarious? This was after we had a massage at the spa when we were in Mexico for the incentive trip last year. This was the view. It was an outdoor massage, and so we were like up on this third level with this view. Not that we could see most of it because we were on the table getting a massage, but it was really pretty going up there. And then prior to going out here, we were inside in the spa, and there's like this little whirlpool, and look at how cool these lights were. It made for a really cool picture. And then this was a cold plunge. I did not do the cold plunge, but my husband did. So I took a picture of him in there. And then this was just one of the signs pointing to the Nye spa was that way. So I needed one more picture, and this fit the bill. So I am going to be using this sketch like I mentioned, and I chose some papers that I want to walk through with you because I haven't decided on which papers to use, except for I know I want to use this one on the top. But let me talk about the configuration at first. I want to kind of tell the story in the progression that it happened. So I have these two photos that are going to form one of these 4x6s because I didn't have another portrait orientation. So if you're using a sketch, you can always substitute two 3x4 landscape orientations for a 4x6 portrait, or vice versa, two 3x4 portrait orientations if you have a landscape 4x6. So that's what I'm going to do here. I think I want this one at the bottom because it's a little bit heavier with the colors. And then let's see, we started in the spa here, so that is going to be like that, and then we went outside. So we've got our view, and then this was our bliss afterwards, so relaxed. So it's going to be something like this. Now this has the first photo as a 4x4, and I probably could trim this down a little bit, but I don't want to lose this, and I don't want to lose too much of the bottom. So I think I'm going to try leaving it as a 4x6, and I'll just have to adjust my title, maybe put it a little higher, or maybe have it go down across the bottom here. I have some other options to make it work for my photos. So let me push these up out of the way, and let's talk about the paper choices. So for this is really like my inspiration. And this one too. These are kind of what I think of when I think of spa. We've got our robes on, we've got the soft colors in the lights and the soft blue in the water, and it just kind of evokes tranquility to me. So I wanted to bring out these kind of natural colors and the blues because blue is typically a tranquil color. So I turned to this paper pack. This is the Woven Textures paper pack, and there's lots of really great neutral patterns in here, and I was already going through these, so I already pre-decided that I want to use this one because look at how perfect everything looks on here. So if I go back to my sketch, we need a strip that goes all the way across here, a wider strip that goes across here, a little skinny like 1/4 inch strip here, and then another strip here. So it's actually a very simple layout, but what I'm going to want behind these photos is something that's not busy, something that's neutral and light so that my photos still pop on it. So that's what I'm thinking for this. Now these little lights kind of blend into this, so this is going to be matted. I probably will do a double matte just to make sure that it really stands out off of this paper. But this is what I want to have for that middle section. I don't think I want any more of the neutrals, although I'm going to have to pull out the another paper. Okay, so then for my next color, I wanted to have something tranquil. So I was thinking that this B piece and the E piece are going to be kind of like this blue color. So I chose a few paper packs that could work. Now, since this is at the beach, this Country Woods paper pack. This kind of has a beachy feeling to me, but I think this has a little too much distressing and is a little too rustic for the vibe I'm going with. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass on this, but this paper pack is a great option if you have beach photos. And then I also pulled out the Wildflower Birthday Collection. Now I have the regular DSP in here and the scrapbook kit. So the regular DSP pack has the gold foil accents, so I have some options with gold foil, and then the scrapbooking kit has a lot of the same patterns but without the gold foil, just to keep it so that it's not as busy. So you can see these are the same pattern, it's just that one is gold foil and one is not. So that was another option. So let's pull this in with this here. So if I were to put my photos on here, I actually really like this. It kind of reminds me of waves. These are little, they could be like streamers or pennant banners to go with the birthday theme of the paper pack, but it almost looks like waves in water for my purpose here. And then I love the gold foil accent too, but I do feel like it's a little bit too much for this particular layout. And again, that's why they took the gold foil out in the scrapbook kit, because sometimes the gold foil can be overwhelming for layouts, although not always. I have used the gold foil paper on a layout. I just don't think it's quite right for this one. So I do really, really like this. The other thing that's cool about this DSP pack is that it comes with a bunch of die cut pieces. So this is a like birthday theme, but not all the papers in here are birthday. So you can see we've got just florals here that don't have to be birthday at all. And then the gingham, and then the there's the cake, which is definitely birthday. I use this one on a birthday layout. But the embellishments too, you've got some like pennants that can definitely be more birthday themed and some cakes and stuff. But then you have florals, and look at how beautiful this bouquet is. That could be good, probably not for my beach layout, but like Mother's Day or spring or Easter or really any other occasion photos that you might have. And then the last choice I have is from the Lovely Garden. And I thought that this pattern, it's not like really, it doesn't have this blue vibe that I was going for, but I think that it's really pretty. And since, you know, we've got the lush green landscape here and then the green and being outdoors here, I thought maybe that could be an option. But now that I'm looking at it, I really am drawn to this. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go with this combo here. Okay, I've got all my papers cut down and I am loving it. This is exactly the vibe I wanted, a little bit rustic with the pool party for this relaxing feeling. And then I needed to figure out what the skinny piece was going to be right here. And I found these pieces, they were already torn and cut to pretty much the right size in that Country Woods paper pack. And I think this might be the perfect piece to go across here. It brings in a little bit of the blue. I wasn't sure if I would like the dark blue, but I do like how it's got kind of variations of darker and medium blue, and I think it blends in perfectly, gives a little bit of a rustic beachy feel without taking over. And then I'm feeling like I need another mat on these. I know I mentioned double matting. I did cut these down by 1/4 of an inch, so they're on a true 4x6 white mat. I wish I would have thought to cut this piece just a little bit taller to compensate for a double mat, but that's okay. I'm just gonna add a 1/4 inch mat to here, and I think that'll still work. I might be able to move this down just a tad, maybe not, because I don't want the white to show. I could always cut another strip to just fill in here, and I don't think it'll be too noticeable if I want to extend that. So I might do that, but let me decide on the second matte color. I was thinking I wanted to bring in some warmer tones because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna embellish with some palm trees from this set here. This is the Beach Day set, and it's got some really fun dies. There's these two palm frond dies, and then this right here, I actually put it in upside down. This is the trunk, and I think I'm going to cut the trunk in one of these espresso colors. I was even thinking this wood grain pattern because it'll give it a little bit of texture as well. So to go with that, and then there's some sort of a reddish brown here. I just think that it's gonna look good. I want something that's a little bit darker to pop off of this background. So I wanted to try the wood grain. And I think that pops really nicely. I think that would be a nice addition. I really like that, but I thought I would bring in some early espresso plain cardstock too, just because when I'm gonna mat them on a pattern paper, you're hiding so much of it. So I thought maybe the early espresso, but it just isn't as rich and pretty as the wood grain. I think I'm going to go with the wood grain. And then in order to save some of that, so I'm going to cut it to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. And then I'm going to gut out the center just so I don't waste any of those pieces, because this can be used for cards and I don't want to waste any of my pretty wood grain paper. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the 4 mats. And this one, I did cut these down just a little bit further so that I could have the white gap in between here, but I wanted it to remain the same height as all of these portrait photos. So I did cut these ones down by just a little bit more and matted them together on a 4 by 6 photo. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut down these mats and then we'll get to embellishing. I've got all of my mats done here, and you can see that I cut out the back of all of them and was able to save all of these little pieces to use for this project and future projects. In fact, I used some of those scraps to cut this title here from my Cricut. I will put the fonts I used down in the description below. I got Pampered in Paradise from ChatGPT. I use that a lot for my titles to come up with some more interesting titles than I can come up with on my own. So I prompted it and asked for a scrapbook title for a layout I'm creating about a relaxing beach massage. And it came up with like 10 or 15 options, and I just kind of tweaked them and put them together how I liked. So that is a fun way to come up with your scrapbooking titles. Now I'm doing my palm trees here, and you can see that I added a little bit of ink blending on each of the pieces because it just adds a little bit of extra depth and dimension. For the palm fronds, I cut out 2 colors, Mossy, Meadow, and Old Olive. And so I used each of those colors for each of the palm trees. And I know that these palm trees are quite a small scale compared to the rest of the embellishments that I'm going to be using, but I actually like that because they fit nicely in the clusters that I'm going to be creating. I have some other embellishments here from various die sets. This here is one of my favorite die sets. This is Seaside Wishes. And I misspoke in one of my earlier videos. This actually is in the last chance section, and it's slightly discounted. The stamp set is sold out already, but the die set that comes with the coordinating embossing folder is not sold out. It is still available and it's slightly discounted. And honestly, I don't think you need the stamp set to go with this die set. My favorite way to use these is how I'm doing it now. I cut out the dies with the embossing folder at the same time and then just go over it with a little bit of inking to bring out that embossing. And I love putting these in my embellishment clusters. They're a great grounding spot. So all of these pieces I actually had left over from previous projects. I love it when that happens. These little coral pieces are from I think it's called Ocean Friends or Friends of the Ocean, something like that. It's a newer set. It came out in one of the online only releases, and it has some really fun piercing detail on it. At the end of this video, I will bring the layout up closer so you can see all of the details closer. And then I also always post my layouts on my social media channels, and you can find all of those links down in the description below. Sometimes I don't post them right away, but they will get up eventually. So I'm gonna put these into each of the clusters, and one thing I like is that it's really easy to tear these. So you can see here I'm tearing them in half, and that creates a smaller embellishment if you don't have as big of a spot for embellishing. And so you can either tuck a couple of them into various spots in an embellishment if you need like 2 smaller pieces, or sometimes if I need a bigger piece, I'll leave it as one piece, but they're a really nice versatile die for your embellishing. And I believe I cut these out of Old Olive cardstock. I know the lighter green that I used is Old Olive, and then the darker green is Mossy Meadow. But then when you ink blend like I did over all of the little embellishments, it gives it a little bit of a darker look too. I just love the look that extra step makes when you do the ink blending. These little starfish are also from the Seaside Wishes set, which is in the Last Chance section. I had 2 of the larger starfish already cut, and then later on I'm going to realize I need a 3rd one in the smaller size, so I went and cut and stamped that off screen later. And here, these are also from Seaside Wishes. These are such a fun and interesting shape. I ended up cutting these because I didn't have them pre-cut, but I wanted to add a little bit more of that dark brown wood grain that I had. So I cut those out of that same wood grain from those leftover little pieces that I had that I got the photo mats from. And then I also ended up cutting a few more of these little sand dollars for my clusters as well. This spa day was such a splurge for my husband and I. He's not one to really get massages. I get them every so often at home, but having this whole spa experience together was so fun. They had us together the whole time, and we are inside the spa area, and like I mentioned, that whirlpool area, we were in there for a certain amount of time, and they have everything timed out and in a particular order. So the warm whirlpool, and then we go to a cold plunge that's not super cold, and then there's like a medium cold plunge, and then there's like a really cold plunge. There's 3 of them. I didn't do any of them, but my husband did all of them. He actually loves doing cold plunges. We have a cold plunge at home that he uses regularly, but it is not my thing. And then we went out to the outdoor area for our amazing massage. And it actually was a bit cold because we were up high and it was kind of windy, but it was a great massage. For my little bling pieces here, I'm adding some of the Riverside Irregular Pearls. These went with the Utterly Adorable collection, but they're sticking around for a little while, and I love them. They're such a pretty iridescent embellishment. I added my journaling here in strips, and then I actually had 2 more photos that my friend Erin sent to me after I started this layout, and so I put those in a flip flap, and they'll just go right on top of that one photo that I showed. The flip flap will go on top of my page protector once I get this in my album. It is such a wonderful way to add more photos in the same real estate as one. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already for more scrapbooking ideas. If you'd like to see another tropical layout idea, then click the video that's on screen here, and I'll meet you over there. Bye!